welcome everyone.
Hello.
I got some feedback coming from somewhere. Let me turn my mic. Okay. Good to see you guys. Welcome. We are a group of psychics and spiritual meetings coming together to help everyone awaken, align with their higher selves and soul's purpose while lifting up humanity. Welcome to our show this week. We are talking about the signs of awakening, and Rachel and I are going to co-host this show together a little bit today, and she's got some great little visuals for us and some information. We're just going to have some discussion and talk about what we go through in our spiritual awakening and kind of some signs that we can look for and figure out, kind of help guide us through a little bit. So, Rachel, how do you want to start off today?
Yeah, so hi everybody. Thanks for joining us. So we're going to talk about the stages of awakening and what those look like and just how that all evolves and how we can navigate through those stages. Because basically we all go through these cycles, right? When it comes to evolution, and there's different phases to the cycle, and it's helpful to know where we're at sometimes, especially if we don't really understand, what's going on and how to reference what's going on in our lives, that it's even normal to go through these stages and processes as we are growing and ascending. So to start, I have a visual that I grabbed off the internet, and this gives a really kind of nice synopsis of the different stages. Now, there's many different examples of these types of things on the internet. So this is just something that I found that really resonated with me and my own experience and our experience on this panel of how we kind of view and perceive the stages of awakening. But it's really unique, I think, for everybody's experience. And then there's lots of different examples of these types of charts that some might list like 10 stages or 7 stages. I mean, you can go into like further detail and break them down more, but this is a really good foundation to understand. So I'll just read through some of these stages. So stage 1 is the dark night of the soul. And that is where many feel lost or hopeless or confused. So I think this is the most common stage that we hear about, especially when we're going through like a transitional phase in our life. This is usually the stage of initiation, where like a triggering event causes us to kind of go nosedive into the depths of like areas of our life, the darkness, the things that maybe were hidden from our view, or just causes us to have like such a momentous shift that we're forced to look at things differently. And sometimes that shakes us up a bit. It leaves us feeling a little bit confused and lost and hopeless, even, because essentially it's the beginning of our I wouldn't say descent, but it's like the cause of us to start questioning now, who are we, what is serving us in our lives, what's not serving us. It's usually, it can be for some like a pretty traumatic event, even a pretty life-changing, altering event. And then it could just be something that really causes us to think about our lives differently. So, maybe there's just something that we're doing in our lives that just isn't working anymore. And the universe just keeps showing us that, like really magnifying that in our lives, so that we feel like we're struggling and we're, just not able to get on solid ground. So there's many ways to describe that, but we'll talk more, I guess, about that as we, go to the panel and stuff. But moving on to stage 2 is disillusionment. So that's a feeling of complacency with life is replaced by dissatisfaction with how things are, kind of what I was saying, like there's a triggering event and it causes us to really reassess and reevaluate what's working for us and what's not working for us. And usually it's a time where we're noticing like what's not working for us anymore. So we're kind of feeling a little bit displaced in the way things, what's been working was fine for a while, and now it's not fine anymore. Then moving on to stage 3, that is where we start to begin seeking. So that's the seeking stage. We start to seek out deeper meanings and experiencing breakthrough moments. So that's when we start looking again for the truth, and what is for us, what does resonate with us, where we do fit in, where we do belong. And we'll tend to have like breakthrough moments that will give us like that light bulb going off in our head, like, oh, that's where I need to be, or that's what I need to be doing, and that's the answer. So we start to find our way again. And then moving on to stage 4 is inner work. So mindfulness, shadow work, inner child work, deep introspection. So starting to notice again, maybe our patterns, the things that just don't serve us anymore, that we might need to take a deeper look at. We might be doing some healing work. Yeah, things that just keep coming up for us that we notice that are maybe holding us back from being able to align with our higher selves or really achieve the purpose that we want to achieve in our lives. And then stage 5 is the unity. So that is where we feel like we're being reborn again, where we're really kind of getting into that maybe unity conscious mode, feeling also connection with the divine, deep alignment with life, community, inspiration. So where we're just feeling like alive and just in alignment, and spreading our joy, spreading our love, just doing what we love and following our bliss. And we just feel like we're on our path. We figured it out. So one thing I'd like to say, this is important to know, is these stages, it's really like a cycle. So it's kind of always like a spiral. It's a continuous cycle. So just because you've gone through one dark night of soul doesn't mean that's it. It's like always happening, because we're always being reborn again. So it's really looking at this cycle as like a death rebirth cycle, I like to think of it as. So we're always like dying to the old and being born again to the new. And that can happen in like a day. I mean, like we can have these mini cycles going on all the time, or we can have these, look at our life, look back on our life and see like really major life altering events that really triggered like a substantial change and had a substantial impact on our lives. But I think it's just overall helpful to note that this is not a linear process. This is a cyclical process, and it doesn't necessarily go in order. So sometimes we might find ourselves just kind of going back and forth between 2 different stages. We might just go into one stage and then be like, oh, now here's like another triggering event, and that's causing me to kind of shift my thinking a little bit more. So I feel the general idea is just to really try to stay within the flow of what feels organic for you, what feels natural for you, and just to be more present with yourself in the moment and aware of where you might be in these stages, or transitioning even out of one stage into another. So yeah, does anyone else have any thoughts they'd like to share about that?
If we just talk about stage 1, the dark night of the soul,
Mm-hmm.
that was huge for me, and I didn't really realize that it was called the dark night of the soul until you brought it up. And for me, being a virile 6th-degree black belt, doing jumping, spinning roundhouse kicks, running my business, running around, like so busy all the time, to suddenly not being able to walk upstairs, and then eventually having to wear an adult diaper at one point, it like freaked me out. And I lost my ish when all that happened. It's like what in the world is happening to me that I go to now? It was kind of ebb and flow where it got really bad, and then it got a little bit better, but the same time, like as the body was changing and becoming, like I said, a very virile male, that I was sparring and fighting, and I was teaching classes, and I was training all the time. And, I was in bodybuilding, and I was doing all these things. And then once your life just shuts down on you, it is like you're just in tears. Like literally you're in tears, because like what has happened to me? I've been torn down to nothing to what my ego had built me up. And it took a long time, even just to, I mean, when I got the stair lift added into the house, that was another level that was brought down and another hit to the ego. And so you just constantly get beaten down. And then eventually you say, well, this is my life. And who am I? And then you figure things out. And then you get past the ego and you get past everything else. And, before I would be a pretty tough male with bravado. I would be like walking into, and I still charge into any situation because I'm just a bull, but I would still walk into those situations. But because I knew I was a fighter, I knew who I was, I knew what I could do. And I was so confident in myself. When that got knocked down, I started to question all of that. Like, can I do this? Who am I? What is happening here? And that dark, I wouldn't say dark night of the soul. That was a dark decade of the soul, until you get to a point and you start realizing the emotions that have always had with you, the feeling, and you get the right people coming in front of you to help you. That led me into the spiritual side of things, that I just woke up. And now I look back at where I am now, and I'm just so ridiculously happy within myself, happy with what's happening here. And even though I may worry about the income that I'm going to be bringing in eventually, I'm still okay. But, even with that fear, now I have my guides and angels that can say, don't worry, all that's going to work out too. You don't got to worry about that. And of course, I look at my investments and my savings and all that, and it's good. I'm comfortable. But, at the same time, that fear comes in. Now I got a guide. I've got people to talking to. But if I didn't go through that dark night of the soul, dark decade of the soul, I wouldn't have had what I have. But that's not to say I don't have those pity parties. And I think that's when we get into like stage 2, whenever else, right? Or stage 3. But anyways, that was my, at least stage 1, dark night of the soul. That was scary as all heck.
Yeah, it's like you lost like your whole identity of like who you thought you were, and you're moving into this like totally new unknown territory, and like not knowing what it's going to be like on the other side.
Yeah.
And how that's even going to work. Like what, like your whole life was built upon this idea of yourself. And then that idea was just like shattered, like over the course of this long period of time. But it forces you to kind of have to either, like wallow in that and just like give up on life and, become that like victim to life. And, oh, well, I guess, that's who I am. That's just wasn't meant to be, or you just find ways to like keep seeking understanding, like why in the process. And through that process, through your process of, I think, even embracing the change, that's part of it too, like being willing to just accept and not, dwell too much on past or why, but like also just moving forward. Like what do I need to like just move forward and be happy and just continue to find those things that give you joy, even under those circumstances that are not the same anymore. It pushes you into like new territory. But you said something also that was really interesting to note for people, that it's not just like some people, it can last like years. Like it can be a decade, the dark night, depending on the event, I mean, like in your situation, Con, that's like a slow, debilitating process to go down, and then, and then have to like build yourself back up again. And so it does take time sometimes to go through that period in your life. But having trust and faith that there's not a reason. Well, there is a reason. There is a higher purpose. There is a higher meaning, and you can find, still meaning in your life despite the circumstances that have shifted and changed. But that's really the process for people, is what is finding the meaning again in their life.
I think that a big difference is also when you are going through this process, especially if you don't even know what's going on, if you're not aware of anything about a spiritual awakening or a dark night of the soul, it takes longer because you can get depressed and suffer from anxiety, suffer from, extreme depression. I know one of my triggering events was me losing a job that I really depended on, which forced me to put myself out there. Never would I have thought that I'd be, sitting on YouTube with you guys, having my own channel, doing a podcast, just like I was forced to build up my confidence to, use my throat chakra and speak and put myself out there. But I depended on my job for so many years as a form of income. And I learned along my process that I'm supposed to be like out there, putting myself out there to help people. And it's not all about your corporate job and climbing the ladder and making money and, and doing all of those things. It forced me to build my confidence and throw caution to the wind and say, hey, I'm going to put myself out there and help people. And you don't really need a 9-to-5 job in order to do that. You can start your own business. You can build your abundance on your own. You don't need a corporation to give you a paycheck every 2 weeks. So that was life-changing for me when I realized that this could be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's something I've noticed that a lot of people that are in the awakening process has went through this phase of stepping out of the 9-to-5. And I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but a lot of us that communicate with each other now are like, yeah, because I was the same way too. We are programmed. You go to school, you go to college, you get married, you get a job. It's just this whole layout that you're supposed to follow this pattern, and if you don't, you are not a success.
Right.
And that's just how it's ingrained into us. And we have to step out of that whole picture and be like, wait a minute, this, it doesn't feel right. And I think probably everybody that goes, through this first phase don't know what's going on because it is the first phase. And so, yeah, I've noticed that commonality, like, a whole bunch of us are like, we don't have to do this 9-to-5, and we finally are either pushed out of it or decide to step out of it on our own and go our own ways. Doc, is the same way for you, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I agree with the decade-long dark night. It was a pretty long period of time. And all of the things that have been mentioned before, like the loss of your 9-to-5 routine, significant shift in income, you're trying the old method and it doesn't seem to work anymore. Incredible disillusionment with my profession and also things that I was sort of learning on the sidelines. All that stuff resonates deeply with me. I could go on forever about this, but I won't. But what struck me was that the more profound the dark night, the more dark, the deeper it is, the greater the learning. Okay? And it's like a mirror. The bigger this picture you get, the things aren't right, the greater the learning is. And for me, periodically I get dragged into the original thinking. But I can easily shift it now because I didn't realize it wasn't just me that I was understanding more about. There was also, I was picking up messages from the collective, which is where I was getting to the visions of stuff which I couldn't quite figure out. But it all is very, very familiar. And looking back, I just think it's just a very profound way to give us a nudge, to give us an opportunity to rethink, to look in the mirror and say, actually, is this really what it is? And I found, for example, saying to a friend of mine, and I totally agree about the path, Kristie, the thing you mentioned about the path, certainly in certain professions, it is the way. You don't, certainly in my profession, you've got to get onto that to get to that point. And if you go slightly off beam, it's very much frowned upon by other people. But looking back, I wish I had gone off beam. I really wish I'd done the other things which I didn't do, purely because I was just studying all the time. And I think this reflection that I had post the dark decade of the soul was actually a really good nudge for me to say, actually, I can still do all those things I didn't do. I still have that opportunity. It's just trying to find the time.
Yeah, it's quite profound that we've gone through this, and Jenny sharing her dark night of the soul, and she says it was after a divorce that she didn't see coming, and this is when her gifts opened up, began seeking to remember who I am, and it was a divine push into ascension. That's so good, so good, so good.
The thing that struck me is that when we look at quote, success, be it in a profession, a career, a business, and we, I wouldn't say judge, but we sort of understand and appreciate our sort of 3D awareness of success. Success really should be measured by the soul progression and not by the position you have in a job, the stuff you have around you. It's really how you need to learn in that path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kira, she brings up something here that she's so happy to be awakening with all of us, give me strength and courage. And she's so right. Like, this is huge. If it wasn't for the soul family, the people that we've connected with, as Martine was saying, like the Facebook, the podcast, going on YouTube, connect up, and the people that we were resonating, connecting with, if it wasn't for this soul family, who I feel so much more connected to than my own family, being a black sheep, and now you have, somebody understands me. Somebody knows the compassion that is oozing out of me and is not ostracizing me for being so loving. And it's so nice to have like this family around us. It's so important. Without it, I don't think I would have had the same way. I'd still be resisting, trying to hold on to my egos, trying to still be a male with big bravado. If it wasn't for the family that allowed me to let go, I'd still be holding on to the darkness.
I think that's a very important observation. I don't know about you, but I certainly was on my own. I wasn't on my own. I wasn't on my own, but I was in my thinking on my own. I couldn't speak to anybody about this, and that possibly prolonged the whole experience. But I don't know how you guys feel, like as the audience, but knowing that there are kindred spirits who are going through or have gone through a similar process, actually really quite helpful because you can talk about it. Because I certainly couldn't talk to my professional colleagues about stuff I was seeing and what we were doing I didn't think was right, because I would have been completely...
Doc, your volume's a little low.
Oh, right, okay. How's this? Is this better?
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, it looked like, I don't know about you, but I was very much on my own in my thinking when all this stuff was going on. And having other kindred spirits around to talk to is a really helpful thing, because you can kick it around and you can speak to others who have gone through the same process.
Yeah, it's really important to find your soul tribe so that you can, grow and flourish and get to where you need to be, because there are certain people that are meant to come into your life to help you accelerate in your path, right? And for your soul growth. And that's part of the ascension process, is finding your tribe and then moving to the next, level. I think that's my opinion.
Yeah, and I'd like to add this in about the stages of awakening, even, and kind of where this whole concept even is derived from. Is it comes from Joseph Campbell, and I don't know if you know of him or if you've heard of him. He's I don't even know what to call him. He was a professor. He's not alive anymore. But he studied all of the religions of the world. All of mythology actually was his thing. That was his subject that he studied. He was like an expert in mythology. He just like read all of the mythological accounts from like all over the world, like even like tribes, in remote places. And he started to see universal truths coming up in these stories. So they would have all these different characters and myths and legends, but there was like there was a similar pattern in how the story would go. There was, and he essentially wrote a book about it called The Hero's Quest or The Hero's Journey. And that is what it's known as. This concept is called The Hero's Journey. So it's basically a chart that shows all the stages that the hero goes in the story on the journey and all like the phases he must like conquer. And so essentially in life, we are the hero of our own journey. So that's how it's relevant to us. But this is also a concept that people use in movies. So anyone writing a book or writing a movie is using this template to write this storyline. And that's how movies are so similar. And like there's a main character, he's the hero. There's a call to adventure. So a triggering event that causes this person to like pushes him into like, okay, he has to do something. He has to go on this journey, whether he wants to or not, and he's got to go. And then, so there's like, then he goes on this journey, and then he starts, hitting like obstacles along the way, and but then he gets allies. So allies come into, so like teachers or wizards or like just the magical helpers come into his life at the right moment where he's like about to like he thinks he's gonna fail. I can't do this. And then someone comes in to help. And that's exactly like how it is in real life. I mean, that's exactly what I think we can all relate to is like, there are moments of loneliness and moments of, can I do this? Is this even possible? Like, what am I being asked to do here? And then right at that moment, like there's a breakthrough. There's something that happens. Like you meet somebody or you find that teacher or you find that book or you find that person that just kind of holds space for you or gives you a little nugget of information that just keeps you going to the next level. So that's essentially what it is. And, what the universe does provide for us on our journeys is we'll get those magical helpers. We just have to be aware, and knowing and understanding that is, what's available to us.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of view that as like our soul tribe. And then like a lot of the teachers that we've met through mediumship that's kind of like given us some confidence and supported us in our process. And yeah.
What was the name? What was that author's name? You said Joseph Campbell?
Joseph Campbell. Yeah. So yeah. My husband and I used to watch his videos. He has there's a really good not a documentary, but like an interview with him. It's like old interview, but he kind of explains his own perspective of life and spirituality based on his study of all of these religions. And it's really interesting because he's pretty much comes to the conclusion that we've all come to is like, we're all one. It's all the same. Like they're all saying the same thing, and it's all about waking up and, just realizing. But he came to that conclusion through the study of mythology, which is interesting.
Okay.
So all the different religions, and he saw the commonality and the common themes. And the guy from Star Wars, the guy that created this franchise, was like a student of Joseph Campbell. Like he used that his hero's quest or hero's journey. There's a book that he wrote called The Hero's Journey, I think. And not George Lucas is I think his name, the creator of that series. That whole series follows the concept of like what he kind of Joseph Campbell came up with as like the outline for how to write characters and the battles and then the return home. And it's interesting. The chart is a lot. Like if you look at his actual chart, there's a lot to it. That's why I didn't share it because there's just like too many like small stages in between. But these are the basics. So this is like kind of the gist of it.
What struck me just now was that just perhaps, during the first and second stage, we're sort of seeing little bits of this jigsaw that are making us think. And then suddenly there's a sentinel event. For me, it was a couple of books and also William Michael Forbes, where it all sort of came together. and I could see the big picture. Whereas when you're first picking up the occasional jigsaw, you're sort of looking at it and think, "Oh, where does this go? Why is this triggering me? I can't understand this." And you put it down. Then something else crops up, and you get the same sort of thing. Then you put it down, and then slowly, they sort of coalesce into a bigger picture. And then once it clicks, then you understand it. But for me, it certainly was just trying to figure out, where's all this stuff coming from? Why am I picking up this stuff? And you seriously have to think about. You have to think of it differently.
Yeah, you have to change your perception usually. And so it's putting those pieces together. That's how I have to see the full circle of things before I'm like, oh, and it seems like it takes me forever. My guides are like, oh my God, because I don't see stuff. It has to be right in front of me and plain as day, like black and white, or I don't realize it. And they probably just think I'm the dumbest person ever because it takes me so long to catch on to the littlest things. And then finally I'll be like, oh my gosh, when I finally do see it, it's like, why didn't I realize that sooner? It's so simple. But I have overlooked it or missed it. And it just goes on and on for me. It seems like forever, but I know it's all divine timing, and I'll realize it when I'm supposed to, but still I feel like I'll look back at things and I'll be like, what took me so long to get through this? Because I could have realized it so much sooner. So, don't, I used to beat up on myself about it, but, don't do that because it happens. You'll have these patterns. It's like, certain things that you'll see that come up over and over and over. And you'll be like, why do I keep seeing that? What is this? You'll keep seeing it again. It's like, I just seen that the other day and I'm seeing it again now. And so sometimes it'll take you a little bit to put it together, but don't sweat it. It's all when you're supposed to realize it, then you will. So don't beat yourself up for it, and know that the stages of awakening is not in order. There's no kind of order to anything. It's like, it's organized chaos is what it is. It's just like, it's always this up and down and back and forth and just all over the place. And, that's the normal, there is no straight path to it. So, don't feel, don't feel like you're just not getting it, because you are, and it's just will fall into place when it's supposed to. So that's just something I want to put out there for you, because it's hard. It really is. I mean, you guys know, and even once you get to this, I had read in when you search the internet for spiritual stages of awakening, you'll find several different things. And it's like 7 stages, 10 stages, 20 stages. It's like there's no real set, you know what I mean? This, and you're really not going to find anything that's going to fit your path exactly, because we're all different. So we're all going to have different paths. So it's and I think another part is coming together, meeting people of like minds, and all of us that are here now, that's part of the awakening is coming together with like-minded individuals. So after you come out, that when you're in the dark night, you feel so lonely. It's like there's nobody that understands me, and I can't talk to anybody. And, everybody goes through that. And then you find, it's like crumbs on the trail, and you're finding these little crumbs, and it leads you to something, and then it leads you to something else. Like for a lot of us, it, as William Michael Forbes was our, led it to, we all was kind of guided to him. And then we were guided to each other through him. So it's just kind of gotten bigger and bigger. It just expands out. And so, and to sit back and, to watch it, and to be able to talk to people, and, that's part of our awakening that opens us up to be like, oh gosh, they know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm sure you guys know. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's just a lot of us are going through it all, at different
Yeah, I
stages.
definitely know that. I mean, my guides in the beginning when I was channeling, and I was going through this process, they just kept saying that was their phrase, follow the breadcrumbs. Follow the breadcrumbs. Okay, guys. So just they would put one little opportunity in front of me and I would be drawn to it. And it was just do that. This is it's gonna lead to like something or it's gonna work out. And but I had to trust, and I had to be willing to a little bit step out of my comfort zone sometimes, not dramatically, but like, it was shifts, little shifts were happening with each willingness to take that step forward and go that direction that they were kind of slowly leading me in. It would lead to something bigger, and it would be like, oh, now like the pieces that Doc was talking about, that was another analogy that I would use all the time to kind of understand my process was, oh, I had to go there to get that piece. Now I have this piece and I don't necessarily know where it fits fully yet, but then now they're leading me to get this piece and that piece, and then it does start to make sense once you get like a higher perspective of it all. But yeah, it's not a linear process. And I'd like to just say, like, even as somebody who like I'm doing this and like I feel like I've achieved like a sense of that final fifth stage, overall, if you look back to where I started, because I pretty much my big dark night of the soul awakening was religious related. So I was pretty much grown up as one religion and Jehovah's Witness, and then I was excommunicated, and I was pretty much like my family was like cut off. Okay, bye. I mean, some family members I still talk to, like my mom and a couple, but I was pretty much just that was it. Denounced all friends, family, previous existence, done. Okay, moved to Arizona, came out here, didn't have a penny to my name, didn't know what I was going to do. I just came out here. I was like, well, number one, I feel better because it's sunny out all the time, so I'm not as depressed anymore. I was motivated because I didn't have any money. I was like, I got to do something. And it just started going from there, just started taking that next, but I always knew I was protected. And I think that was just like something about me personally. I don't know if other people felt this way, but I just felt like I was always protected. Like I was like, I got myself into dark situations where I was like, I don't know how, I was protected in that situation that could have gone so wrong. But just because I was naive, I didn't have a lot of life experience at that point outside of my protected religious shell. But yeah, looking back, I can see how each experience I had, even though it was kind of like not the most pleasant experience. I mean, I had to learn some lessons, hard lessons and stuff. And it was lonely, and it was, I was like, how did I get through that? But I mean, the right people came into my life at the right time when I needed this, when I needed that. I just found people, and they were strangers to me at one point. And some of them aren't in my life anymore. They were just there for that period of time to kind of like assist me, get me over here, get me to that person, then get me over here, then get me over here. And then finally, when I met my husband, that's where it all just kind of came into view. Because I was literally like praying to God. I was like, okay, I just want to know the truth. I just want to know the truth. Anything. Do I need to go back to this religion? I'm seeking, I'm just tired of like, not knowing, like I want a connection with God. I just feel like that's what I want. And then maybe like the next, I don't know if it was that week, I think I met my husband, and he was already been on the spiritual path for a while. So he kind of just started giving me books to read and this and that. And it was like, oh my God, you answered my prayer. So I was like, that was my answer. Thank you. And, the rest was history. So here we are, like 11 years later. But yeah, so that was kind of like a major transformation for me. But I was forced to like just not know anything. Like I had no idea even what I believed in. I just knew that the religion was like, it wasn't working for me. Like I really tried to do what they wanted me to do, and it just kept not working out. I was like, what's going on here? But then when I found that piece, I was like, oh, now I get it. Like now I understand why that didn't work out. Now I understand why I tried so hard and it just kept pushing me out, spitting me back out. I'm like, I'm praying, I'm reading the Bible. What's going on? So anyway.
What about I know we all go through our awakening differently, but I'm going to ask a candid question here.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a point where anyone got like, I know I did. I got tired of seeking. I got tired of the shadow work. I got tired of it all. And I used to like kind of argue with my guides. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I used to argue and be like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not doing this shit anymore. This is BS. I'm out. I'm going back to my other life. And every time I got to that point where I was so frustrated to a point of just totally giving up on everything, then something would happen to gain my to keep going, you know, to keep trusting. Every time without fail, I said, this is BS. I'm not doing this anymore. Forget this medium stuff. Or, you know, I'm like going to sell all my cards and all this. Then something would happen to make me feel good about continuing on with the process. Did that happen to any one of you?
Yes. And it's still happening.
Yes.
You know, even now, like, even, you know, a lot of times we're on YouTube when we're showing our best selves. A lot of times we have to show our worst selves as well, because this isn't a constant escalator ride up to heaven. That's not it. This is the roller coaster, but it's a really shitty roller coaster because it's made out of wood. It's rickety. Your back hurts and everything's just sore and painful. You know, there are times that, you know, I had to jump over to medical cannabis, and there's times it's like, well, you know, but of course I said I needed medical cannabis because I need the medical cannabis, and I'm doing it the right way, but I'm using even that as a label and a crush because I didn't care if it was medical or not. I just want to get high and escape the world right now. And it took me, I was still on it for quite a bit when I was doing the Channeling Eric series. And I was doing the intuition development course. I was taking a lot of cannabis, and I could tell during my speech as I did it, and I could hear myself, and I would see myself like, gosh, like you sound like a complete fool. And as I would rewatch some of the tapes to kind of set up chapters and bookmarks, I'd be yelling at the screens like, you idiot, what is wrong with you? But it was because of that I was like, you know, I do not like myself when there's cannabis in my system. I do not like myself. And even though, so I reduced it. I said, okay, I'm not going to do it during the week. I'm not going to do it like 2 days before I had to go live. So if I have a day off, okay, I'll do it. And then I do it at nighttime, but then I would do it like maybe 2-3 days. It's like, but as I increased my vibrations and shifted myself more into love, now it's been at least a month, even recreation, and I do have time. I'll look at it, it's like, you know what? I just don't want to be in that feeling because I don't need it anymore. And it's now me telling my body that I do not need the medical cannabis. Even though we meet with the cannabis doctor maybe every 6 months and we have that conversation, I'll say, you know, I haven't taken it in a while. I haven't done it in a long time. And like, do you want to cancel the prescription? Like, no, I don't want to. So I'm still holding on to that crutch that it's there if I need it. But mind you, I have so much junk left over that I don't even need it, right? But it's sitting here, but it still is a crutch. Someone's like the alcoholic that won't throw away the bottles of alcohol. And this is my escape. It's there if I need it. And mind you, I have taken it at least once in the last month, but I was like, I couldn't sleep at night. My body was just so crazy, and I was going through a really crappy night. So I decided, you know, I need some rest. So I ended up having some cannabis, and that put me right out. But otherwise, but that it's still my crutch. You know, nothing's perfect, and you still get those days where you are, you know, when the aches and the pains, when I get up and I'm really stiff or my hand really cripples, is I start panicking. Oh shoot, like I'm getting worse. Here I go. I'm degrading. This is it. And then but I might get stuck in there. I'm stuck in that loop until I catch myself. It's like, what are you doing? This isn't how manifestation works. You have to love yourself. You have to talk to your body. You have to end it with a positive. And then I get back on on that good talk again. And then I realized, okay, I'm feeling my muscles. And, oh, it's really ropey. So my wife, she's an acupuncturist and traditional Chinese medicine, nutrition. So she starts feeling my arm and seeing how ropey the muscles are. And so she started doing cupping on me. If I could show you my shoulder, it is, I don't know if this is going to show or not. I'm not even going to get my shirt down enough, but I've had a big, massive cupping mark on me. And because she did that, all of a sudden I can open and close my hand again. So here I was getting myself into the spiral and the panic, and it's a roller coaster. Just like you're saying, Martine, you get to the point, it's like, fuck, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like, what the hell? Give me drugs, let me escape. And whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, or getting into a promiscuous relationship, whatever it might be, it happens. And
yeah, I mean, I have those moments with 3 kids at home. I mean, it's just like I would channel something and I would go out and I'd be like, stop yelling, but not like on my videos. This is when I first started channeling. I just got like better about it, but I just, I'm like, I'm meditating. Be quiet, like, like, is that really? Like I can come out of like a meditative state and like go into yelling. Like, what's going on?
I so relate to that.
It's just like for me, it's like about not having like space. Like that really triggers me sometimes when it's like, or loud noises. I don't know. So I know there's ways to, tune into that and stuff, but it's just, real life, I mean, like things come up and it's a lot, to manage energy always coming at you like this. So I think for me, what's helped is just learning to really just like one step at a time, like all this is happening. Yes, all this is happening, but what is the most important thing like right now that needs to happen for me to stay grounded, for me to stay centered, for me to stay present, and sometimes that's just like being honest with yourself, checking in with yourself. Like, how did I eat today? Am I hungry? Maybe that's why I'm irritated. Did I get enough sleep? Am I tired? Do I just need to sit down? Because I've been standing for like, 5 hours straight, walking around, just going like getting this person that and that person this. And it's like, sometimes it's really the simple things, even that we're just like, we lose our connection with ourselves. And then we can't handle other people's energy coming at us. So that's something, it's a little off topic, but that's just an example of things that I struggle with. And I think we're just always learning. But I really appreciate you sharing that, Con. I mean, that's just like, helpful, I think, for everybody to hear and know that like, even those of us who are really taking the time to like, incorporate the spiritual practices into our life, that doesn't mean that we don't have like things that we're still working on or improving on. And I really view it as like we're shedding layers of ourselves, and a lot of it is conditioning too. So it's like cultural conditioning, and like we're shedding a lot, and so we really have to be kind to ourselves and compassionate with ourselves. I don't think anybody expects us to do it like overnight or just like wave a magic wand. It's more just the willingness to just take that next step, and then knowing when you need to just take a break, and that's okay. Like I've had to say that to myself too. Like if I want a glass of wine, I'm going to have a glass of wine. If I want coffee, I'm going to have coffee, and I'm not going to beat myself up over it, because honestly, that just makes it worse. That just makes me feel bad, and it doesn't put me in a good vibration. If I just enjoy the moment that I'm having in that moment, and I don't like, just enjoy that moment and let it be, and then let it go, and then move to the next thing, whatever you're drawn to. You might not be drawn to that next time.
Like recently it was my birthday, and I went out and I drank alcohol, and I drank a lot. Yeah. And the next day I had a hangover, and I was like, F it, because I'll just detox and balance my chakras out in a couple of days, and it'll be fine.
Yeah. And it's like, I think it's like that trial and error. Like we're learning like what our limits are. We're like children in a way, like spiritual babies, like, we're like, yeah, we know what the right thing to do is and what the higher, path is or whatever, the better thing. But at the same time, like, we are here to have a human experience. We did come to Earth for a reason. And my guides were really like, in the beginning, I was questioning them on all of this stuff that I was doing. I'm like, can I drink alcohol? And they're like, yeah, like you can do whatever you want. Like, it's like, we're not judging you. Like, that is the whole thing. Like, there is no right or wrong. Like, they'll nudge you like in a direction, if you're asking, they might give you some guidance, but they're not going to tell you what to do and what not to do. So I don't know. So it's kind of like we're here to learn through testing our boundaries, testing our limits, like actually doing that to see like what worked for us and what didn't, and then adjusting it and refining it next time. So it's really just about like being aware, like growing our awareness. And as long as we're doing that and we're progressing and things are, we're finding those joyful moments and we're finding that we can look back on our life maybe like a couple months ago or a year ago and see all the progress we've made, then we're doing okay.
Yeah. Well said.
I think we're hardest on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We really are. It's because it's like we think. I mean, I do. I'm sure you guys do. It's like I know better.
Yeah. Like, oh, I'm not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And then it makes it like you get like resentful, or maybe like it just builds up this anxiety in you. Like, oh, well, I still want to. Does that make me bad? Like, maybe I'm not a good spiritual person. Like, I don't know how we judge ourselves,
Yeah. So I think all of us can relate to that. So I mean, it's just that's our human trait,
Yeah.
So and it's definitely part of the awakening process.
Yeah.
We realize how much, because we've been doing this, and as we've been connecting and hearing each other's stories, we realize that it really has nothing to do with whether you're male or female, what part of the world you're born in, what religion you are, what color your skin is. We're all going through this human experience. And I think that part alone just connects us so well. But going back to that, Doc, I got to hear from you, because you're very stoic. You're very, you're known in the community. You're responsible. But there's some stories behind those eyes.
I've got. I'm just going to reflect back to what I've just sort of picking up, and that all of us, for whatever reason, through our schooling system, through maybe religious education of various sorts, it's been very didactic. Okay? Somebody up there with a book has been telling us, this is how you study, this is what you're going to study to get through these exams. This learning has been iterative, therefore it's been like this. And the second thing is that it's experiential. Okay? So it's a different style of learning that we're all going through. I'd like to think maybe the observers in the audience also can reflect on this, because this is something that's innately within us, that we are actually on this journey that we're learning. Whereas historically, we've all been told what to do. This is how you pass your maths exam. This is how you get through this level. This is how it's always been that sort of step-by-step approach. So we have been, to a certain extent, programmed to think that when we don't do these things, we're doing something slightly off kilter and not the right thing. As a lot I could tell you, but it's probably not the right place to talk about this stuff. But for example, alcohol. I had this moment where I realized that a lot of my work dealt very heavily with statistics, maths, and spreadsheets. And I noticed that my favorite drink, the day after I had my favorite drink, which was port, I was making mistakes on the spreadsheets. I couldn't believe it. I thought, this is bread and butter. I shouldn't be making this mistake. So I chucked all the alcohol away. My kids always remember this. We had a lot of alcohol in the house. And then just recently, and on occasions when I had a bit of alcohol after that, I've noticed that my gums would bleed. So I thought, okay, maybe my body's telling me I shouldn't have this. But just lately, when my daughter's brought around some port, I've been thinking, that looks good. I haven't quite got there yet. But it's sort of, you get these little sort of nudges along the way where either because you feel like it, but also it's part of that experience that you've got to remind yourself, what is it that you've given up? I don't know, maybe when I have my first glass of port, I'll know the difference. But it's just that we have these little moments where it's partly reinforcing our learning as we go along the way. Similarly, I'll be honest with you, I've been thinking about eating meat quite a bit lately. I didn't know why, having been vegetarian for donkey's years. But then through a channeling somebody did for me, it appears that I need the iron. And that's why my body's telling me, or encouraging me to eat something, to eat some meat. So it's just these little sort of nuances, that it's never a step change. It's always a little bit of a little bit of a up and down, up and down, up and down, as you sort of work your way along that path. And so we shouldn't beat each other. We shouldn't beat up ourselves whenever we, quotes, go back a bit, because it's all part of that learning.
Yeah, for sure. Amy brings up a great question, and she asks how you're all handling Christmas. She says, I'm really mourning the loss of the birth of Jesus and all the beautiful Christmas songs. Any insight? What do you guys think?
I've got one. I remind all my Christian friends that actually they're celebrating Saturnalia. They're not celebrating Christmas, because this is actually the Roman feast of having parties and doing all the stuff. And then when they suddenly realize what it is, they realize that they've just been programmed into it. And then I say, well, you do realize the Copts have probably got it right, because it's sometime after the new year, because it's the wrong calendar they're using. But it's just a little bit of a nudge in the system. I can do that because I'm not Christian in this life, but it's just my way of coping with it. We still have a very good meal, I can show you.
Yeah. And I think we have to remember the mindset of what was happening with Jesus during the time that now I don't deny anything about him coming to earth and sharing his story and being on the cross. But we have to remember that his resolve was so strong within him and he realized that there was a separation between body and mind and the higher awareness. That's how his healing was, because he held everybody up in their highest light. And he just knew that we were not this body and mind. That, as Grace said earlier, that, this is an actor stage. And as Rachel said, this is an actor stage. And we are just in a different actor suit. And this time I happen to be a balding, pasty white guy. And I'm walking on the stage, and these are experiences. And my higher self is saying, okay, go on stage, and this is what you're going to do. And then someone else comes into life, say, okay, Doc, go into this guy's loft, go on stage and do this, and this is just that actor. So I think Jesus really knew that, at least that's what we're getting from when we do our channeling, that, this is just part of the show, and we're all sharing this experience at the same time. And we're all living this at the same time, because this is how we all grow. Yeah, Doc.
I'm sort of trying to get through this book, but I think it's called Autobiography of Jesus or something like that. And it's just an amazing book. And Amy, if you want to get a different perspective, if you haven't read it, I thoroughly recommend it, because it really makes you think differently about the life and times of Master Yeshua, because it really is very, very profound.
What's the name of it?
I think it's called The Autobiography of Jesus. It's a lady who channeled it, with Master Yeshua actually telling her what to write. And it's so, for me personally, it just resonates so deeply, so strongly, because I know from past times I've been there. I was there at the time, and I met him apparently. But the main thing is that we know from a spiritual context, his energy and his work transcends that moment in time where we see him in the 3D sort of guise.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And you know what? I love Hallmark. My wife and I, we watch Hallmark movies. You see the doom and gloom, and all the TV shows are all on dramas, and the housewives of wherever, and they're all drunk and partying, and then there's the boat of this, and that whatever drama is. You know what? We throw in Hallmark and we immerse ourselves in Christmas. My wife loves Christmas, and pretty much 24/7 in my house is Christmas Hallmark movies going on. And the nice thing about it, it's love, and it's caring. And the most frustrating piece about the drama they have is that the miscommunication, that instead of loving each other, they see each other and they're talking to a boy or a girl, and it's like, well, I don't have a chance, and they walk away. And the miscommunication, that is the most amount of frustration that you have in a Hallmark movie. But everything else is love, and people are singing. And I'm not religious at all, and it's only through my awakening that I've actually connected with Jesus and Mother Mary and all the religious figures. I've never had that religious experience. But you know what? You want to sing a Christmas song? I don't know where the mourning is in the Christmas song, why you're mourning it. I'm just remembering Amy's question again. Why there's really mourning the loss of the birth of Jesus. I understand it. And the beautiful Christmas songs. You know what? Immerse yourself. But like, you want to sing a Christmas song? Sing a Christmas song. Let's all sing a Christmas song right now. Let's have a Christmas show. In fact, next week is our Christmas wrap up.
Next week we'll start off with some Christmas music.
That's it.
It doesn't make you any less spiritual.
Yeah.
We all have our guilty pleasures. Like me, I will sit down and watch a marathon of the Real Housewives of New York and Atlanta, and doesn't mean that I'm, not a good person. I just enjoy to watch other people's drama.
Yeah.
I find it highly entertaining. and then I can move on.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I'm a second that. I say just like do what you enjoy. Like if you enjoy it and it's giving you something, if it's lifting your vibration, you feel good about it, don't deny yourself, because I mean, Christmas music is beautiful. Music is beautiful. Music brings emotions up, and if you resonate with that, allow yourself to enjoy that also. But me personally, I do love Christmas music, and I love like the season and the spirit of the season. And with kids, it's easier to get into that. I mean, obviously, being raised a Jehovah's Witness, we did not celebrate any holidays. So even birthdays, I mean, some of my family snuck some birthdays in there for me, but basically we really didn't celebrate like Christmas or anything. So when I met my husband, his family was more Catholic, and so they did, and I just loved that. I love getting together with family. There's so much more to it than just the beliefs around it, and it's really like what you make out of it. So it's like what you create out of that experience for yourself is what gives it meaning and value for you. But yeah, I say
I just heard the word integration. Integrate. It's like integrating all of the different parts of yourself, whether they're, your little guilty pleasures or your spiritual side. It's just bringing those all together.
Yeah, making time for all of those parts too. Yeah, exactly. And I was just even thinking in terms of like celebrating holidays, like someone just said they celebrate the winter solstice. I mean, you can create your own version or vision of that holiday based on what you do know about Jesus and bring that into it. But yeah, I didn't really connect. Well, this is one interesting point I wanted to say about like that because of the religion thing. So with Jesus, I was part of a religion that it was a form of Christianity. We had different views from Catholicism, but basically we believed Jesus was the Son of God and all of that stuff. So we did worship Jesus, but I never really felt that close to Jesus going to church. And that was like the funny thing is like I feel so much more like I know Jesus now. And I had a hard time praying to Jesus. Like then when I was in that religion, I just didn't feel right the way we would pray. Like, I don't know, just like, please do this. And it just felt like so distant to me. And then in Jesus' name. And I was like, why do I have to say in Jesus' name? Like I can only, like, it's just so weird to me. It just felt so separate from him. Like, I just feel like that just doesn't feel right. So I wouldn't pray. I had a hard time praying. It just felt, didn't come out right. It wasn't like from the heart.
That was my experience, my same exact experience in the Catholic Church.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now I have no problem praying from the heart. I don't even call it praying. I have a hard time with the word prayer even. I haven't figured out a good word to call it, but I just channel, talk to, or like just say like speak my intentions or commands or whatever I want. Like when I'm saying something, I don't say it like, oh, can I please have this? It's more like, you know, my intention is to do this. I ask for assistance from this guide or that guide. But yeah, it's just more empowered when you can connect to them directly.
Yeah.
I must say, we love going to Christmas carols, and obviously we look very traditionally Christian, but it's always quite funny because at the end of the service, the vicar always sidles up to me and says, would you like to come to next week's? And it's quite funny, really. But it's all good fun as long as you enjoy it. It's what matters. In fact, I'm going to church this evening for the concert. That's another story. So,
You know, it's interesting you say that because I was born Muslim, but my dad, he'd pray 5 times a day. But then when he came to Canada and had my sister, who's 4 years older, he'd be doing the praying and he realized I didn't even know what I'm saying. He'd just be saying the words. He didn't read Arabic. So I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. And he stopped it in our household. So in my household, and my mom on her side, her mother was Christian, but her father was Muslim. So she was born in a mixed religious house. And this happening back in Turkey, you know, that's like maybe mixed relations between black and white was here 20 years ago, how it was taboo in the 80s, let's say 30 years ago in the 80s. So her having a mixed religion back in Turkey, she was ostracized. So when we were brought up here, my father says, you know, I'm not going to pray anymore. And how I was raised, but my mom made sure that we celebrated Christmas, Easter, everything else, just to be a part of the community, so we wouldn't get beaten up the way that she got beaten up as a kid. So we celebrated, but it was just the celebration. It was the commercial celebration. It wasn't the religious celebration. But then she also had like a set of books that was kind of like a Cole's Notes on the different religions that she made me, or she showed it to me, and I happily read them. And I got a little bit of taste of everything. But then when I got married, my wife, her family was Catholic. And at that point, her mother liked to go to church. And I'd go to church and say, hey, let's go check it out. I want to go see what it's like. And, you know, everyone kind of congregated in the halls, in the walkway. And the priest would do whatever they would go through, and in Jesus' name, so on, so on. And there's no love or feeling that connected with it. I didn't feel connected with it at all. And then people would get up and they would go through all the motions, and the service was over and everyone would meet up in the aisleways talking. But you'd listen to the conversations and it was just pure street talk and just trash. And it's like everything that you just heard was thrown out the window. You don't believe it. You're just going through the motions. There's nothing here, you know? So it's like when June throws up my favorite Christmas song is Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. Nothing religious about it, and it's freaking hilarious. And so it's like, if you're going to enjoy the commercialism of it, might as well have some fun, right? So there's my 2 cents. Rant over.
It's so true, Con. It's so true. Rachel, thank you for bringing that up, because it seems like religion is just a touchy topic, and it doesn't have to be. You know, it really doesn't. But yeah, it's like Con, I can see that it's like robots, you know, zombies going through the motions. It's like we're so programmed. It's like you got to go to church and you got to do this and you got to do that. And if you don't, you're a bad person. You're going to burn in hell. And it's just like, oh my gosh. And you know, it's just not like that. And
but surely, is it not a useful point of reference that we all have had at some stage of our lives, and maybe folks in the audience also have had that, where it's because of that lens through which we look at things, it jarred or it has made us think differently. And we could have easily followed the same old, but nevertheless, I just think what's very interesting is how we've all had that little sort of moment where we thought, doesn't feel quite right, folks. There's something not right here, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, I had this most brilliant conversation with a pagan, and I don't know who was a pagan in the audience, and I when I asked her about her belief systems, they were just the same as ours. There's a surprise, you know. And so I often say to my Sikh friends, you know, some of the best Sikhs are not actually Sikhs, because they just do. A Sikh means a student. That's all it means. And it just means you're learning. And yet the underlying spiritual tenets of every religion, including paganism, it's had a bad press in the Christian world, is the same. And we've forgotten to remember that. And our journey has been partly exposing it to ourselves, that actually this historical multiple layers of bullshit that's been applied to whatever religion you are part of, when we start to see through it, we suddenly realize that actually there's something more germane underneath all of that stuff. And then we will get it. We get it. We really understand it.
Yeah. And Amy brings up, so here's something like Amy says, I love Christmas season. I love Hallmark movies. And wasn't sure it was okay to continue. This is not a religion. Spirituality, what we're doing, this is not religion. This is just waking up. And it is about acceptance, about no judgment, and everything is okay. If that is your truth, that is your truth. If you decide to have the vaccine, have the vaccine. You don't. This is it. You want to smoke cannabis? Smoke. The idea is that you don't get into excess. It's like, don't let it consume you. Let that be a part of you, but don't let it consume you. And I think that's the real message of what we're learning here. No judgment. Everything is cool.
Yeah. Just your body will tell you, your intuition will tell you when it's time to like stop doing something. Like it, you know what I mean? So just pay attention. You'll get nudges if like you're feeling like that's not working for me anymore. Just pay attention. That's really all that you're required to do in this life. Enjoy yourself, but pay attention to what really brings you joy, what gives you your life force, what gives you energy, and what might be draining your energy, and be willing to look at all aspects with no judgment. So what I'm just realizing in this moment is what I think happens is that sometimes when we judge something as bad, we become afraid to look at it. Mm-hmm. So if we stop judging it as bad, it's easy to look at. It's easy to see like, oh, maybe I smoked too much today. Like if that's what you're doing, or, whatever, because I think like when you're afraid of being a bad person, then you might be afraid to look at that. Like you might look at that as like, oh, that's a vice, or I don't even want to look at that I even did that, or acknowledge that I even do that. So you hide that part of yourself, and now maybe that part of yourself is kind of like developing, stronger than it needs to, because you're kind of like ignoring it, and it's like maybe it's shouting at you. But if you're just like neutral in what you look at, you're not judging yourself for doing it or not doing it. You're just paying attention to, is it working or not working? Is it helping or not helping? Just simple. And that's based on you. That's based on your experience and nobody else's experience. So what somebody else might think is irrelevant. It's what actually you perceive that is relevant.
Yeah, on all five of us here are from different religions, and all of us, when we were in that space, we felt our intuition, separating us from that. Like, this isn't right. Something doesn't feel right here. And all of us have said that we could tell something wasn't right. It just kind of did. For me, it was almost like a separate entity from myself. It was like, this is like outside of me. It's not something I could even connect to very easily. But I was forced, I had to go to church, every Sunday, every Sunday night, every Wednesday. It's like I had to go. It's like, you're going, whether I wanted to or not. I didn't have a choice. I had to go. And so, and then when I would go by my own choosing, I still felt that. So it was like, as I gradually got to this point, it's like I felt it when I was being forced to go. I felt it when I chose to go on my own. It was still there. My intuition, of course, it's not going to change. But I didn't realize it was my intuition kicking in and being like, hello, So at that, at just what we've been talking about, it's the awakening process. And we all experience these things, and coming together talking about it, it's like, oh, I did that too, and oh gosh, I've done. I mean, everything that people are talking about here today, it's like, I've did that, I went through that, I've thought that, and so, and it's just what it is. It's the process, and we don't even realize we're going through it, that our intuition that was telling us back then something's weird, this is not right, that was part of our awakening. That was part of the process that we started and going through, but we didn't know that at the time. We had no idea that it's our spirit and higher selves going hello little bells. And so I think the questions about, should I do this or should I do that, or is this okay or is this not okay, in your gut, if you stop doing something and it feels bad, do it, if it's like, if you're thinking maybe I shouldn't do that, am I going to be looked down on, or whatever your thoughts are about it. But your intuition is always going to tell you the right thing to do. So if you stop something that you should probably keep doing, then you're going to feel weird about that too. So go with your gut always.
And I think this goes back to, it can even lead into relationships. So if you feel that you're in a relationship and one side is holding you back from speaking your truth, or that you need to leave the relationship, okay, that's okay. But if you find you need to stay there and work on it, but it's not necessarily to fix your other half, it's there to fix yourself or work on yourself and go into a state of love and change your vibration, and they will change naturally. And then you'll find out if you need to move on or stay in that relationship as well. Right. So ultimately, this is the idea of spirituality, the spiritual awakening. It's not religious. It's just waking up to your true higher self, not your body, not your mind. It's seeing past that, past your five physical senses, past your thoughts, past the ego, past the fear, in a state of love. And if you can make all your decisions within a state of love, you're on your path of spirituality.
And it's a practice. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. You're just you're setting your intention that's, you want to get better at like following your heart, basically, because your heart is your guide on this journey, and really knows what's best for you. But sometimes like your ego, your conditioning, the cultural, conditioning that you grew up in, like all these fear-based ideas can cause resistance to following what to be true for you, what to be right. So I think if you just keep seeking, going in that direction, doesn't mean you're not going to stumble, doesn't mean you're not going to have obstacles, doesn't mean there might be moments where you're like, I don't think I can do this anymore, I'm done, it's just not working for me. Pay attention to those little magical helpers that come at your way, or those little breadcrumbs, that little fishing line that gets thrown at you. Just keep going. It will get better.
I think what dawns on me, spirituality is like a diet. You're aiming for a good, healthy diet, and as you do it, I know that happened for years. I would eat like garbage, and then I would get really healthy, and then I would get garbage and get really healthy. But then now when I go out, it's the less garbage I have. The times when I fall off the wagon, it's less and less. I think I was just saying to somebody the other day, I had a cheese pizza, wheat base with pepperoni on it the first time in like 3 years. And I felt like garbage, but it was really good going in. But then that's the inflammation setup. That's why I couldn't open up my hand. That's why, the muscles started knotting. That's why all these effects happen. And my body showed me, it's like, oh yeah, here you go. And it's the same thing when I have cannabis. If I have cannabis, I grew, I was never a drinker. I smoked, so me and my friends, and I lived near an area that, I hung out with the brothers, right? And that's what we did. We smoked. So, and that was okay. And that's how I grew up. So I was never alcohol. So now I enjoy smoking. But when I do it, now when I have it, it's like, I don't enjoy that anymore. And now when I had that pizza, the taste wasn't the same. It wasn't as good. It's like, okay, this wasn't as enjoyable as I had in my mind. But it took me that 3-year gap. So the next time I have that, I can't even remember the last time I had Kentucky Fried Chicken. And that is just some greasy mess of chicken, and when I had that the last time, and that was like, 15 years ago, and it was so gross. So I think it's the spirituality. It's a diet, on, off, your palate changes, your diet changes, it all changes.
But thinking about experiential learning, those those 2 or 3 examples you've just given are, in a way, you actually reinforcing your original learning about when you abstained. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like a little memory jog to say, now you know why you did it,
Absolutely.
rather than
Boom. Mic drop.
you should have done it.
Yeah, it's so good.
This
Yeah.
is
Nice, Doc.
to teach you why you did it.
Mm.
I have to speak slightly off beam here because I know somebody who is going through this process as well, and their biggest challenge is that they're currently in a relationship with somebody who's definitely their soulmate, but they've also met their twin flame. And from what they were saying, it's incredibly hard. And that's a really hard call because they totally understand unconditional love for them. But it's just a really, really hard call.
Mm.
Yeah. And if we go quickly, I don't want to go move too far in this. You know, a twin flame is meant to challenge you. It's meant to push you into uncomfortable situations for you to learn from. And that is the true essence of it. And not all the time, but that is one of the things that what a true flame is, they're meant to challenge you. And I know my wife has done that for me as well. Not only is she my best friend, my soulmate, my romantic partner, but she also pushes me at times too, to make me look at myself and change. And I love her for that. It's so key. But, you know, in the right situation or the wrong situation, do people recognize that? Is it just a complaint? So this is why we need to stop. So when your partner is saying eat better, dress better, wash yourself up, whatever it might be, it's sometimes not them nagging you. It is they love you so much that they're looking out for you. And we need to shift our attention to that. That this isn't a negative thing. It is a beautiful thing that somebody loves you that much to say something.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was going to mention that earlier, like that thought, that idea to say something along those terms came up earlier. I don't remember whose comment I saw, but so it's interesting that it's coming around again. But yeah, I second that because I was going to say that too. Like sometimes when you're talking about relationships and I think it was Yukon you were talking about, like, you know, sometimes a dark night of the soul could be like a relationship that maybe it's time to leave or reassess or, but yeah, I've had moments like in my relationship where I'm just like, I'm done. I'm speaking my truth, but this is my truth. And, you know, and I'm feeling like that person's not receiving it as my truth. But then, you know, just hold on a second. Just hold on a second. You know, there's more to the story. So you look at it a little bit more and then you start to see like, you know, is there love there? Yeah. Do I, you know, it's like, that's like in the moment, like a frustration, but not necessarily like the truth. So sometimes the truth is like, are you willing to see their perspective? You know, because maybe they have like truth to their perspective and it might not be coming out in the way you want to hear it, but is there truth to it? And is there generally support for your growth, you know, process? And so, yeah, so just being able to see from that perspective does take like practice too, like in a higher awareness. And I, you know, can second the whole twin flame thing being challenging at times, but that it's,
I have to
those
say,
are the challenges that make you like break through you like wake you up, like shake you up sometimes. Like I need to look at this a little bit closer. Is that really what I want? Do I really want to just end this relationship? You know, you know, no, it's at least for me in my case that I'm talking about my marriage and stuff, but yeah.
And I think that goes back to that dark night. You know, see, we have the circle in the center. This is a continuous circle. So these stages, we're constantly, you know, the next dark night, the next emotion comes up, the next thing comes up, this is a constant process. It doesn't change.
Yeah. There's going to be triggering events, and the triggering events are catalysts for you to look a little deeper, you know, or look maybe even from a higher perspective at like the situation. What's the message in this, and what are you being asked to do, and what's the next step? So, yeah. So it looks like we're getting close to wrapping up here. I feel like we kind of said a lot, but got to like a good, I don't know, stopping point, it feels like, unless there's any more comments. But yeah, does anyone have any final words on like our topic for today?
would it be worth considering if there were particular books, films, or documentaries, or whatever, where you mentioned that, Rachel, that chap had written a book about the heroes, for example. I mentioned the Jesus Autobiography and a few other books I can think of. Would it be worth considering just compiling a list of those, just in case other people would like to just dip into them to see if they're of interest to them or not? Should we leave it?
Yeah, it's a great idea, I think. I don't know, where would we put the list? Do you want to put it in the comments or on like the video description?
I'm open either way. What do you think is the best thing?
Yeah, I mean, this is streamed when we initially create the broadcast. I'm able to create all the descriptions. So if we can share that among ourselves and put it on our own channel descriptions as it comes. So
yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Okay. If I could very briefly mention then, just because I think Martine asked, the author of this book is Tina Louise Spalding, and it's called Jesus, My Autobiography. You can get it on Kindle and paperback as well.
Louise Spalding?
Tina Louise Spalding, yeah. She's written a few other books as well, but it's one of those books. It's just jaw dropping. It's absolutely.
Wow, I would like to read it.
I've heard that. Someone told me about that recently too.
And one of the reasons why I sort of got into this slightly was that I met this incredibly venerable Buddhist nun. She was a very senior Buddhist nun, and she said to me, "You do realize we Buddhists know where Jesus is buried, don't you?" And I thought, what? Because that sort of screws over the resurrection story, but that's another step. But the long and the short of it is, this has been known in certain places in Muslim villages in northern India, Pakistan, Afghan border, that sort of area. That's where he's buried, and there's a lot of there's some corroboration. I don't know, I've not been there, I can't say for sure, but it would be very awkward for the Catholic or for any of the hierarchies in any of the Christian religions to say, actually, folks, we know where he's buried.
Well,
looks like we could do a show on Jesus.
You by any means, but yeah, we can consider that one.
Well, William Michael Forbes said last week in the core session that the incarnation of Jesus is on the planet right now. Yes. So he is here walking supposedly. So
yes,
yeah, wow. Now's the time. So much crap going on. Now's the time. So why not? We'll see if he still has the. We have to remember that he was a soul as well. That he had many incantations on Earth, and this is just he's probably been here thousands of times. Who knows? And thousands of times before that. So this isn't. This is just as much an experience that we're all sharing, and this is why we say we are all equal. That isn't a matter of that we are different. We have hierarchies, and one person should be put up on a pedestal. That's why he walked the earth, to show that we are equal. We're all equal, and that's where we learn from. So, on that note,
yeah. So I think we'll just wrap it up, and we're looking forward to next week, which is our final show of the season. So the new season will start in January, mid-January, right? Is that
the 19th? Yeah.
The 19th, yeah.
Yeah, we're getting together the week before, but the
to talk about it. But so our last show of the season is next week, and that is going to be a reflection, like a reflection on the year, the past year, right? And I'm still trying to remember are we doing readings too?
We'll figure it out, and we'll talk about it. And then I think our first show in the new year, Martine is going to lead us with her singing bowls and start the season out, and we'll do some channeling for the new year. We'll talk about that, but I'm jumping ahead a little bit right now. But we can make the last show whatever it is. Like we'll do some readings.
Also, I think we have a giveaway we talked about, or the potential of a giveaway on our last show. So for people that show up and post in the comments, we'll figure out a way to include everyone in the giveaway on that show, which is next week. And yeah, so exciting. Does anyone have anything coming up they'd like to talk about? Any events?
Go ahead,
Juan?
Martine. You want to start? I have a lot. So
Oh, okay. Martine.
I just my YouTube channel and my podcast, Martine's Musings podcast. The link is in the description. I recently uploaded a distant Reiki healing for healing limiting beliefs. So go ahead and check that out, and as well as my podcast.
Nice.
Awesome.
What day is your podcast, Martine?
I upload every Monday now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
love it.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I guess that leaves me now, and then
Yeah.
you, Rachel. So for myself, I am on nightly at 12:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm now doing a daily channeling practice to go through all the clairs. So, and you guys remember when I did channeling Eric, and he was guided to. So Eric has said, okay, now I'm doing other work, and he's now stepping away as acting as my guardian angel or my spirit guide. He's still with me, still guiding me, but my primary guardian angel, Sebastian, has stepped forward. And so he's having me channel. It was very last minute. He said, go online now. And then, okay. So we're going through clairsentience, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairalience, the nose, clairgustance, the tasting, and then claircognizance, the knowing, as we do all that, kind of hit a complete vibration of the head. And I am freaking buzzing afterwards. So that is nightly. I'm doing that. And of course, Divine Soul Awakening every Wednesday. And this Friday, in 2 days on my channel, it's another Ask Spirit. So a full 2 hours. I'm going to get through everybody that comes on the channel. I'll just answer messages and channeling. And I'm just building up my spiritual muscle. So a lot of people are resting right now. They have me in full force. And of course, I'm doing the 1 billion strong twice a day, the raising the unconsciousness to love and raising the body into love. So lots going. Oh yeah. And Jenny, that's right. Thank you, Jenny. Tomorrow, Thursday, on Practicing Angelic Messages, the private Facebook group, at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 Pacific, we are doing a practice session, card pulling. So everyone to pull cards for each other. So we'll be Jenny, myself, Lisa, and Amanda will be on a private Facebook group. And if you're not part of it, reach out and we'll get you in there. Whew.
I just thought of a strapline, Khan nightly.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, brother. I love it. And Rachel, you're back in action now too, right?
Yeah, slowly making some new videos. Mostly, I've been doing videos. I've tried to get back to my live events, but that's just been kind of a slow going process. Things come up. It's just busy. My life is so busy. Every day is like 5 different things, new things coming in. So I swear. So I just have a lot going on, and I think it's hard for me to, keep up the pace or keep with the schedule with my events that I like to do live events on my private Facebook group page, which is called Intuitive Soul Rising, and you'll see the link below if you want to join that. I do have intentions and plans to do a live practice channeling of the Ascended Masters this week on Friday. That's usually done on Fridays at 1 p.m. That's Mountain Standard Time, but also 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, so I'm planning on doing it this week, but something happens, but I hope not this week. And then I'm also just mostly promoting like my YouTube channel again. So I've been producing more videos, and it's a lot of this stuff that we talked about today. Well, about like breaking free of fear and ego. Like I did just a recent one channeling with Lord Shiva, and then I've got one I just posted, an energy update for December with Joan of Arc, and I have another one I haven't posted yet, but it's really good because it's all about it's with Melchizedek, but it's all about how to what's the difference between when it's our ego talking or our intuition talking. So I feel like that is going to help Some of the stuff we talked about, actually Doc pointed out about this process, came up in that video. So with him, what he said. So really interesting. So tune into my YouTube channel for that. And that's really it for now. So Kristie, anything with you?
Well, no, I'm just waiting for things to align. I'm doing this whole craziness with time management and trying to, like, I got some new stuff coming into, and I started working again. So, and that's some days I work evenings along with my mornings, and I always have, make sure I'm here on Wednesdays, and then I have a class I teach on Fridays. So I'm just like, I feel kind of scattered, and I'm trying to like zen into I know I have intentions set on, that I want to do meditations through my YouTube channel, guided meditations, and maybe some live meditations with people. And I know that's what I want to do, and that's my goal. It just hasn't come to fruition yet. So we are going to be doing that.
Yeah.
Eventually, when it's time for it to fall into place, it will. So I try not to like freak out too much about it.
Exactly. I've learned to just go with the flow and set the intention and just trust and allow it'll happen.
Yep.
Okay, everyone. Well, it's been a fun show. Really enjoyed this show. Thank you all for being here. We look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day. Have a great week. Love you guys.
Don't forget to like and share.
Oh yeah,
Love
like
you
and
guys.
share and subscribe, please, so we can get the message out. Thanks again.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.